Okay, so now we're going to do that part of the exhaust, or all of that buttoned up. I promise you guys a shot of coolant lines. That's that. And we're back with another Cars 101. Okay, people. Let's play this beat. As you can see, things are that's right. We were doing another Cars 101 episode. Sorry. Hi YouTube, it's me, Nezrak, and we're back with another episode of Cars 101. Today, we are talking about drum brakes. Woo! Now, there's not a lot of people talking about drum brakes just because of the fact that drum brakes are kind of annoying to work on. There are way more working parts of drum brakes, but this, YouTube, is the drum, okay? This is pretty much what stops your vehicle. This isn't actually the working part. This would technically be the equivalent of the rotor for your disc brakes, okay? But it's a drum, as you can see, and you can see why they call it a drum, right? Because it's pretty much just a hollow drum. Now, the working parts of the drum itself is the outer circumference has to be so thick for it to work properly, otherwise it will shatter and explode and probably launch you off the freeway. The inside, if you guys can see any of that, not sure if you guys can see that, but the inside, you see rust marks in there and you kind of see grooves and tracks. This is because this is my old drum brake. Before I did my drum brakes, this was on my car, and it was it was time for it to go, to say the least, okay? So, now, to talk about how drum brakes work a little bit more, and the importance of using your drum brakes efficiently, and how to use your drum brakes efficiently, because there is a way to, and not to use your drum brakes properly. Yeah. In short, there are two shoes inside of your drums. Your pads almost look like giant C's, almost, okay? Almost like, they call them shoes. When you see them, you'll see why. Like, shoes just looks like what that part should be called, okay? But they look like giant, like, half moons with a whole bunch of little holes and, like, reinforcement brackets right there. You'll see it eventually. I'll take my drums apart so you guys can see later on in the future. But there's two of those, and there's springs connecting them together, and there's a wheel cylinder in the center. So every time you push on your brake, the wheel cylinder pushes those drums out so it makes contact with the inner circumference of the drum. Pushes those shoes out so it makes contact with the drum on the outside that's spinning. This is spinning with your wheel, okay? So that's how drums stop your vehicles, and they're pretty efficient, okay? Like, everybody talks trash about drum brakes. They work really good. The problem is that when you heat them up over and over again, they fade big time, okay? Because the drum expands and the wheel cylinder is pushing out and it just doesn't make as much contact, doesn't put as much force on the brakes. That's why drum brakes are slowly but surely being used less often. But, I mean, on cheaper cars, they're perfect. They're perfect, okay? If you're not going to be driving like Speed Racer or Dale Earnhardt Jr., you'll be fine, okay? Now, how to use your drum brakes properly, how to use them efficiently, and how to make sure that your car's stopping right. Now, here's a perfect example. Some people get a car, and slowly but surely they realize that their braking performance degrades over time. And I'm going to explain why that happens if you have drums, okay? Now, if your braking performance degrades and you go out and get new pads and get, you know, the blue stuff put on the back of them, or go buy some nice new shiny disc or some pads for the front of your car, and your car still kind of stops better, but it doesn't stop as good as it used to, it's mainly because your drums are out of adjustment, okay? Now, to explain that, which is kind of a whole nother mouthful, at least I'm kind of panting here. In short, these two shoes right here have another little like bracket looking thing with a wheel on it, okay? And there's a little finger that comes over and flicks that down every time you set your emergency brake. What that does is it keeps those shoes pressed out far enough to make sure that they make contact with the drum at all times. Now, a properly adjusted drum won't let you spin a back wheel more than a full 360 degrees, regardless of how hard you spin it. If you took both hands and spun that wheel as hard as you can, it won't do more than 360 degrees because your drums are technically always engaged, okay? unlike your disc. I mean, your disc kind of like float. They kind of touch a little bit, but they're not really doing anything. Your drums are kind of like, you know, they're slightly restrictive, okay? And that's part of how drums work. And that's how you make sure that you get even wear on your drums, on your shoes. So, I mean, it's like that little finger that flicks that adjustment, sorry, I got completely sidetracked right there, is what really keeps them just out and in contact. So the way to get that to happen is you set your e-brake. Every time you set your e-brake, that finger flicks down one time and does one click on that wheel, okay? And it keeps them taut, okay? And if it's already out there, it won't even click. It'll just bounce right off of it. It'll get taut and then it'll just and pop over it and won't adjust. It won't be able to. It won't have enough force to do so, okay? So, I mean, that's generally, especially if you drive an automatic, the main reason why your brakes are degraded, okay? Not only that, you'll go through pads way faster, mainly because your front brakes are doing most of the stopping, if not all of it, okay? With this little Dodge Caliber, like, the e-brake wasn't being set on that thing regularly, and sure enough, it had gotten to the point to where it warped the front rotors to look like my fingers do right there. They looked just like that. The inside was real deep, and the outside looked like it had a lip, where the actual pads rode had pushed into the rotor and warped it. Just because it needed that much force, it took that much to stop the car, and it was just regular driving. It wasn't like it was performance driving at all, okay? There wasn't any spirited driving going on. It's just day in, day out, every day, whatever, okay? So it's like, in essence, if you really want your car to stop, you want your brakes to last, you don't want to feel vibrations and everything else, all of your brakes need to be stopping your car together. The easiest way to do that, especially in automatic, set your e-brake every single time you park your car. If I were you, and I had an automatic, I would pull my car up, I would set the e-brake once I was in my parking space, and then I put it in neutral to make sure the e-brake was completely engaged. If you start to roll, you need to push it down more, or pull it more, and if it just sits still, you're good. After that, put it in park, leave it there, okay? So anyway, I hope that helps you guys out. That's really the general cause. People in standard cars don't have these issues just because they're always setting their e-brake when they park the car, okay? So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to like and subscribe, leave a comment. I'm not sure if we're gonna be doing another video on brakes, but I kinda wanna give you guys the breakdown between disc and pads, okay? So that's probably gonna be coming down the pike. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to like and subscribe. Peace.